Hi, everyone. My name is Leanna Biddle, and I'm your Career Education Manager for the Warner College of Natural Resources. I want to thank you for joining us for the Career Services Tuesdays through Instagram. This month has been really talking about job searching and what are some of those sites that might be helpful as you think about searching in Colorado, looking at nonprofit opportunities, and today specifically talking about federal opportunities. So what I thought would be best for today is just navigating USA Jobs and showing you the ins and outs of finding different opportunities within USA Jobs that best fit your hopes, desire, needs, and wants. So I would say first and foremost, what I would do is create a profile within USA Jobs. And so what you will see on the back end is something similar to this. What we can do is if you have any questions from this presentation, if you will, or overview of USA Jobs, please feel free to reach out to me. I am hosting virtual appointments this summer, and so we can actually talk about the profile and maybe your specific journey within finding federal opportunities. But again, today we're going to talk about briefly how to find some opportunities that may fit some of your interests and what you're looking for. And so, for example, we're going to start with forestry, which I will type in here into the search bar. And this is keeping in mind maybe no location of interest. I'm just interested to see what type of forestry type opportunities might be available. So as I click in, a bunch of different opportunities will pop up. On the right side, you'll see filters, and that's where you can filter out some of the needs, again, and wants, and aspects of you that you need to consider as you think about the job moving forward. And so with filters, what I do love about USA Jobs is this picture on the side. And so even without looking at the filters and what each means specifically, if you find icons that resonate with you and your identities and who you are, you will see those within the job itself. So for example, this forestry tech rec role is open to the public, whereas this forestry tech rec role down below is not. And you can quickly decipher that as you're looking through. So what I would do as you start your search is thinking about what filters best connect with you and seeing what opportunities you can then filter out and look at more specifically within the announcement. One note I wanted to make is the students and recent graduates. And so during the Obama administration, the Pathways program was created as a way to help students streamline into the federal government. And so with that, three different programs were created. This internship program, the recent graduates program, and the Presidential Management Fellows program. Internship is for our current students. Recent graduates are for those who are getting ready to graduate or have graduated 2 years out. If you're a veteran, you have until 6 years out to apply for those opportunities. And then the Presidential Management Fellows Program is for our leadership, executive, high-level experience, education candidates who are looking for, again, another way to streamline into the federal government. So if you fall into any of those categories, aside from Presidential Management Fellows Program, that's a specific program that you and I can talk about if it applies to you and your interests, I would click here to see what opportunities might be available. Again, it's a way to streamline students, if you will, into the federal government, into full-time permanent type roles. As you go down, some other filters that might be helpful, this is salary. So if you have a salary in mind that you'd like to include, grade. And so what you might see on this left side is GS 5 through 6, 7 through 10, and you may see a 4 through 6, there we go. You may be wondering, what does that mean? And so grade, general schedule, if you will, essentially is the difficulty, the level of difficulty of that type of role. And so there's typically a map, if you will, of what each constitutes. So what I see is GS 3 and 4 typically being college students. GS 5 is those students who have graduated from a 4-year or bachelor's type degree, who have a bachelor's degree, especially in the case of CSU. And anything above that, again, is further education and further experience. And so if you're a current student, I would be looking at GS3, 4. If you are getting ready to graduate or did graduate, I would look at 4, 5, and so on, whether you're a master's student, doctorate student, or have extended amounts of experience. The beautiful aspect of general schedule is that it does combine both education and experience. And so that is why the federal resume is so long, because the federal government wants to know all of your different experiences. Going down, department agency. So if you have a specific department or agency in mind, can be a place where you filter out that agency. So for example, if you wanted to work within the Department of Ag or potentially within the US Forest Service, this is where you would click those different filters. Going down once again, let's see, series. So each different industry area, if you will, I know that's a broad term, has a series number. And so for forestry specifically, if I were to click into 0400 and go down, I could click on forestry right here, the series code being 0460. And from there, I would see all of those jobs that classify underneath that. So again, it's a way to be strategic. What are some of the series numbers that you see that resonate with you and your interests? And how can you be more strategic as you're looking through some of those different jobs in the series that might be applicable in making your search more simple, if you will. Some other filters to keep in mind, location assistant or relocation assistance as you're going through, work schedule, so that includes full-time, part-time. Let's see, remove filters, we have multiple. So one aspect again of USA Jobs that I appreciate is when you hover over one of the different filters, it shows what it means. And so if you're ever confused, that is a good way to see exactly what that type of filter means in terms of opportunity. Work schedule and appointment type differ a bit. Appointment type is if you think of a permanent type role versus if it's temporary, seasonal, term. Again, if you hover over, you can better identify the differences between those three specifically. But I think of work schedule as throughout the week, whereas appointment type is over a long period of time, whether it be summer or a full-time type role. Going down, security clearance, and a few other filter categories that might be applicable to you as you look through. So what I'll do next is quickly go over a job announcement just so you have a better idea of what that looks like. So I'm going to find this forestry technician resources. So this is a GS 4 through 6. And this would be for someone, if we go back to our filters so we can better understand what this means. Career transition, competitive service for veterans. You see special authorities. So again, not open to the public, but for those who are already in the federal government or have had a role within the federal government. So if you click in, some things to keep in mind as you're going through, open and closing dates, keeping those in mind, salary, the pay scale and grade, permanent full-time, right? So this would be a role working 40 hours a week in a permanent type position. Going down, you'll see different locations. And so as you're going through the application process, you'll be asked to include a resume, some additional documentation, maybe some additional information. And then the last step is being taken to a questionnaire. And within the questionnaire, that's where you'll be able to include locations that interest you. So you will have that opportunity to include what locations best fit you and your needs. Going down, you have a summary of that role, some of the different responsibilities, travel required, so again, good to keep in mind. Promotion potential is always good to think about. If you see a range in the general schedule, so GS 4 to 6, there is promotion up to a GS 6. So if you're hoping to move up and get promoted, be aware of that promotion potential aspect of the role. Here you'll see the job family and series. So if you find a specific position and you enjoy or appreciate what that position entails, the qualifications, requirements, I would keep tabs or note of the series numbers so that you can look specifically at similar opportunities available as you're going through. These are some of the requirements. Again, conditions of employment, some different qualifications. What I appreciate about the job announcement within USA Jobs is they now include some examples of the amount of experience or education needed for each specific level. And so if you're wondering, am I a GS4, am I a GS5, or am I a GS6? You can actually look through and see what some of these different examples of general experience could look like, or specialized experience. And with this in mind, always good to include what is in your resume and how does it connect with the job announcement itself. So keeping that in mind and some of the keywords that stick out to you in your experiences as they relate to the job. Going through education, I would always, just a fun tip, click on read more because you never know what type of information might be in there, especially as you're thinking about the application process and what to include within your resume and additional documentations. Going through, how will you be evaluated? Again, always good to think about. I mentioned that questionnaire. It should be right here. So if I were to click here, it should take me to the questionnaire sheet. So you can see it before you have to fill it out when applying to a position. One tip I always like to include is make sure you have your resume next to you when you're completing the questionnaire. Because if on your resume it says that you have X number of years working within forestry, for example, and the questionnaire says differently, your materials might be tossed out because they don't align and don't connect. So it's always good to make sure that as you're looking through, you have your resume and you are answering the questions on the questionnaire um, as well as you can in correlation to your resume. Again, you can find the questionnaire typically under how you will be evaluated. So again, looking through and seeing what type of questions might be asked of you as you're going through the process. Required documents, always important to include to see what you need to include. I mentioned this earlier, the federal resume is a long document. There are aspects of the federal resume that differ from a standard resume. If you have questions about a federal resume and how to develop a federal resume, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help you in that process. I'm very familiar with the differences and what are some of those best strategies you can take as you fill out your federal resume moving forward. Going down, again, some additional information to consider, benefits, how to apply, and anything additional to that. Now within here, I may have missed it. Typically there's a name and contact if you have any questions. There is this agency contact information box, if you will. It doesn't always have the most specific information, but typically if you go up to summary at the very top, let me see. There should be a contact at some point, maybe learning more about the agency as you go through and someone that you can connect with on this role. If not, you have the box down at the bottom. So again, if you have any questions about anything that we've covered during our time together, this short time, just quickly going over USA Jobs and some of the nuances of it, please feel free to reach out. I know it could feel like a beast, if you will, applying to federal opportunities and creating your federal resume, but you are not alone in the process. And what you could also do before I log off is if you're looking for specific job opportunities and you have created an account, what you can do is save jobs and you can also save filters. And so from there you can, if you're only looking for jobs within Colorado or only jobs that are open to the public, you can save those filters, save this search so that you don't have to save or start a new search every single time. So again, if you need help with any of this, navigating USA Jobs, the federal resume process, looking at a specific announcement and wondering what to include within your application, please let me know. I'm happy to help in this process.